It's time for Miller and Williams on Iowa Everywhere. Presented by Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino. This is Iowa Everywhere.
What's going on? Welcome to Miller and Williams here on Iowa Everywhere. A little, I don't know. We're not going to do a holiday show. If that's what you're looking for, we ain't doing it. We are going to talk some Dabo Sweeney.
That's kind of holiday-ish.
Yeah, we're big Jesus guys.
It's our version of the holiday show.
I want to talk about Iowa's just inexplicable basketball loss yesterday. Who did they even lose to? Eastern Illinois. And then we'll do some Caden Proctor. We don't have a lot of Iowa State topics today because they've been canceled as far as all that stuff goes. Not a lot of sexy National Signing Day topics coming out of Ames. So here we are. He's Jon Miller. I'm Chris Williams, presented as always by our friends at Prairie Meadows. Hassel was supposed to be out today. He's so he loves doing this so much. I'm going to do a quick one with him this afternoon where Hassel's been stuck in Iowa in this just desolate weather. And I thought it would be fun for everybody to get his thoughts on driving across the great state of Iowa. So we'll do a little bit of that. And then earlier this week, it's up on our feed now. Ken Miller and I did kind of just a junky football preview for the holiday weekend with some betting stuff. You guys can go and listen to that whenever you want. It is not timely. There's nothing timely about it. So if you want to listen to it on your way to grandma's house or whatever, you are welcome to do so. So it's like brutal here. Like the winds are just starting to pick up. Are you getting this too, John, down in Kansas City?
Yeah. So I'm on the upper level of our house and I'm looking out the backyard, which abuts up to a several 100-acre, this year was a soybean field. Next year will be corn. I bet we probably got a couple inches of snow, but the winds last night, starting about midnight when I was trying to go to sleep, were howling. And I kept thinking that I hadn't strapped the trampoline down enough, and I was worried about that. So, yeah, it's nasty out. And it started with like for an hour long, a glaze of frozen precipitation. So that means everything's just jacked up. And I got to say, my youngest, Mary, is going to be starting high school next year. And there's a 25% chance this is the last winter I'm going to spend in the Midwest. We've given a little conversation to maybe moving out to Palm Springs or Laguna or Dana Point in California. But that's going to be for sure when she's done with high school. But
California guy.
Just warmth, warmth without humidity. But my guess is we'll stay here at least till Mary's done with high school. So the older I get, the less I have tolerance for this crap. It's just desolation. You nailed it.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. Well, you're a Vikings fan. You would.
There's an aspect of just like, oh, you know what? I am locked in my house for the next 3 days and there's nothing I can do about it. I kind of like that.
There's an aspect of that you like.
Yeah.
You do well in prison.
No, it's just like we live such crazy lives where you're constantly on the go. You always have a million things. Oh, well, Cammie doesn't have dance tonight. Great.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're
like
talking
we're
about
just here.
Yeah. The hectic pace that you have put upon yourself. And you kind of this gives you a chance to sit back and say, hey, maybe we don't need to do all these things. Maybe my kid actually is going to be more happy, not in that extra class, but spending time with me. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. It's just general.
We're going to do a gingerbread house today.
We did that. We did our annual gingerbread house contest 2 nights ago. I posted it on Facebook. You can probably see it. I had serious plans this year. Normally, I just mail it in, get last, know I'm going to get last. But I wanted to get something other than last this year. And we had 6 people in the thing, and we had like 8 gingerbread house kits that we bought that my wife bought months ago. And you draw numbers, and whoever has the best number gets to pick the first house that they want, out of the whole lot. They get to pick it. And then I drew the last number. So by the time it got down to me, we had serious structural issues. I had to icing glue because everything has to be edible. So I use icing to
Is that
glue.
like the rule?
Yeah, it's a rule. Icing to glue things back together before I could even start to consider what I was going to build, and it was my worst. It was the worst looking thing of all
So
time.
when you tried the hardest, you were the worst.
When I actually set forth a plan,
Yeah.
had an image, had a vision, it turned out the worst.
Thanks,
I think secretly it's to my children's delight. I think they like seeing me struggle, and they chuckle because they so seldomly see their dad struggle.
Speaking of that, classic Jon Miller right there. Thank you.
I'm glad you got it.
Oh, I caught it. I was thinking about this because I've been working on my bull betting and stuff like that, and I got it all mapped out. Is little Gracie going to the Liberty Bowl?
No, she's not.
What? She's missing out on a great college experience.
You know what? When is it?
New Year's Eve, I think.
Okay, so she's going to be driving through Memphis. Is that where the Liberty Bowl is?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's going to be driving through Memphis, I think, on December the 28th.
It is the 28th. It's the 28th at 4:30.
That is hilarious. I'm going to have to let her know because her and her friends, they're going down to see her old roommate from last year who wasn't at school first semester this year, but who's coming back second semester. So it's nothing but smiles and happiness in Gracie's world. She's still doing awesome. And so they're driving down the Florida Panhandle to spend a few days with her over New Year's. So they are going to be driving through Memphis, coincidentally, on the 28th.
Of all the bowl game, like the trips and stuff that I've been a part of, and I've never had better experiences than the two in Memphis.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's kind of like Iowa State fans going to the Big 12 tournament because they all drive.
Right.
And then you're just all on Beale Street together.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. Like there's aspects of it. Like, so the last time we did it, I rented a house on Fanatic staff and wasn't exactly in the best neighborhood. We learned.
Yeah, for sure.
There were it looked like a prison around the house, like razor blade, like fences all around this thing.
Yeah.
But it's memories, like you said, it's about the journey.
The journey is it.
It's about the journey to that Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah. Is that
we
where
couldn't go to because of COVID?
Is that where you talk with Jerry Lawler?
Yeah. Well, no, we went to his basement. We had the game watch party. Jerry the King Lawler.
That's again one of the better stories anybody could possibly ever tell.
I was tending bar.
Right.
In his man cave. It was
that's
pretty
epic. I mean, you're tending bar in Jerry Lawler's man cave.
We made it on College Game Day too, because a bunch of people were tweeting about it, and on game day the next day they put up some tweets and stuff about an Iowa State game watch at Jerry. Michael Admire did the 10 o'clock news live from it.
Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable.
We had a blast,
dude. That's it. That's living. That is absolute living.
You ain't gonna get that at your damn Rose Bowl.
No, that is that right there. That right there is winning in the margins.
Yeah, thank you. I am the special teams coach in Memphis.
Well done. Well done.
I know. I was studying that game last night because I think Arkansas is going to miss a quarterback, and I think Kansas will really want to be there because they haven't played in a bowl game in forever. And I was I wonder if little Gracie's going to get her friends and head down to Beale Street.
Yeah, no, alas, I'll let her know. Or I might not. I might just
if I had a daughter that age, I wouldn't want her at Beale Street. And
that's why I just stopped. I may just not even tell her and just let her move on down to Picola way into the Panhandle.
She's not 21, is she?
No, she just turned 20.
Yeah, she'd have a rough time in Beale Street. I mean, there's not a lot to do. I wouldn't take my kids to that bowl game. It's kind of right. There's not a lot to do there.
Yeah. She is going to go. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but she is going to go to the Iowa State KU game on January 14th. Did we talk about that?
Well, I knew you were going.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah. She and I are going.
Oh, you're going together.
We're going together. Yes.
Oh, that's good because you raised her to hate all of us, and she's carrying on the family tradition quite well, it seems like. So.
I may have and maybe didn't take into account the things that you tell a 3-year-old. See, you can tell a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old, really any single digit age, you can tell them that. Let's see, what's a good term that everybody might be. Harry Potter movies are pretty popular, right? So
guess.
you could
You're into that sort of thing.
You could tell kids that Dumbledore is God, that Dumbledore is the creator of the universe. Okay. And then the teacher wizards are his apostles. You could tell a kid that from birth. And there is zero doubt that they absolutely will believe that to their core, that level of indoctrination. So, I was telling her when she was younger, making jokes, having her read, Hawkeye's rule, Cyclones drool, things like that. So yeah, there's a little bit of that in her. She's got a little bit of that spite in her. But we were told, based on where we're sitting for this game, that we are not allowed to wear any Iowa State clothing. So that was a little disappointing for us both. But we'll make it through.
Yeah, right. Like you guys were going to wear clone gear.
I've got some KU gear that she's gotten me, so we'll do that. So we won't be repping Iowa State that day.
You weren't going to rep Iowa State anyways.
Likely.
Thank you. All right, on to your team. What in the hell? I didn't get to watch it. I was out doing holiday stuff, and I just assumed like it was going to be a blowout. Like, why do I even need to watch this game? They're a 31-point favorite. And then, so I took Jared and Connor out and gave them their gifts that I got them. And I just took them out for quick appetizers before the snow started rolling in. And Connor looks down at his phone and is like, holy crap, I was losing by 10 with like 5 minutes to go or something. Did you watch this game? Like, cause I feel like I have to go back and watch it now, but what in the hell happened?
I tuned in when Iowa was down 5 with 10 minutes to go. I'm like, okay, I guess I better tune in. What's this shit show doing? Connor didn't play. Of course, Chris Murray didn't play.
I didn't know Connor didn't play. Okay.
But still,
you should be able to win that game with your walk.
Your second 5 at a Power 5 power conference school should win that game. Iowa couldn't, Iowa's 3-point shooting sucked again, but worse more than anything. This was a horrible Eastern Illinois team offensively, one of the worst in the country. They came in to this game with a KenPom ranking of around 356. And I think there's 363 teams, right? This is one of the worst teams in Division I college basketball. As such, the betting line for the game was like Iowa minus 31 or minus 32. In the previous 550 some times, those things have happened over the last 20 or 30 years. The team that was favored won. This is the one exception. I went back and looked through Iowa's KenPom information dating back to 2002, which is the starting of the KenPom era and the point in which he doesn't have any data beyond that. Easily the worst loss by an Iowa basketball team relative to quality of opponent. I'm not talking about like pain. Northwestern State sucked. This is easily, not even close. This was a 355-ish or so ranked KenPom team. I think the worst rating before that was somebody that Iowa lost to was the team at the time might have been ranked like 205. So
you guys dropped 16 spots last night.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in time, I'm like, I love looking at KenPom, which we've talked about in a previous episode.
Iowa State dropped 3 spots just based off of Iowa losing.
It's contagion.
Well, I mean, that's how this stuff works, though.
Right.
Like, Iowa State fans, in theory, should root for Iowa the rest of the way because it makes that.
Once upon a time, I had an Iowa State, let's just say member of the Iowa State Sports Information Department. Okay. I'm not going to single people out. By the way, I have high respect for this person and like them.
Do the math. Like, I can probably figure this out.
Let's not
that many of them.
I have a high degree of respect for this person. Very kind human being, very much a loyal Iowa Stater. And you know what? That's fine. He works for the university. So this was like 2003. I'm living in Kansas City. I'm, doing the talk shows with the equipment at my desk, just still kind of getting Hawkeye Nation going. And somewhere in some venue, I can't remember where it was, I was talking trash about Iowa State losing to a bad team in basketball that season. And the Iowa State media person, who I did not really know yet, I hadn't done any media. This was before the radio days in Des Moines. emailed me and was just giving me all kinds of, well, you should be rooting for Iowa State to win because you beat Iowa State. And if Iowa State loses, it's going to make you look worse. And you know what? On some levels, he was right. But I just remember getting that email going, holy crap, dude. But anyway, I digress.
The only commentary I have on this is a bunch of Iowa fans gave me all sorts of shit after that Cyhawk game. And I am going to take a brief moment to puff my chest here, because you talk to anyone in sports, when you lose your guy, like Iowa did with Chris Murray, it's not that inconceivable to everybody rises to the occasion.
Yeah, we've seen a lot.
You just get killed by Duke. This is the best crowd you're going to have all year with Iowa State in town. And they rose up and played. That was the best defense. Maybe that was one of the best defensive efforts I've ever seen out of a Fran McCaffrey team that night. And you hit 12 threes. And I was just saying, like, I'm concerned for Iowa down the road here, because that is difficult to replicate. Now, they played pretty well against Wisconsin, right? You knew there would be a night like this, but damn, like, you just didn't think it could result in a loss to Eastern. Like, it's just hard to do time and time again. Then you take Connor out of the equation. There was, from what I've read, there's just no energy in that building. And I can't say you blame them. John, you've covered enough of these getaway games before Christmas. They're brutal. Coaches hate these games. I guarantee Iowa State was thrilled that Omaha game got canceled. You do not want to play in these games because of what Iowa saw yesterday. Again, you just don't plan on losing them. Like, they're generally tough. You don't usually lose them.
Yeah, and I think Iowa didn't shoot well from three, but really the worst thing is their defense. They Eastern Illinois shot at a really high clip. Defense is about effort, and there was just lackluster effort. Now,
I can't trust a McCaffrey team to bring it defensively night in, night out. I'm done with it. I was trying to explain that after that Cyhawk game. Like, if you guys would play like that, you'd be the Sweet 16 thing wouldn't be a problem. But they just don't care enough defensively. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm underrating McCaffrey, like, as far as that goes. Maybe
I think it's difficult to play offense at the pace that Iowa wants to play offense and be a really good defensive team.
Like the Hoiberg years and Ames. Very similar.
And you see that on defense or in college football. These teams that want to push and air raid and push and you see it in the Big 12 a lot. That's why Iowa State, I think, has the success. One of the reasons why they have the success they do in the Big 12 is they place an emphasis on defense, and they don't play at the pace that maybe some Oklahoma teams have and what Oklahoma State does, because you can go 3 and out really quick.
Yep,
and then it goes your defense back on. Right.
Yeah, complementary football.
So I think there's maybe a little bit of that with Fran. I don't think it's that they don't teach or coach defense. I just think that the pace of play is basically going to limit lower your ceiling on defense. But there's no excuse. There is no excuse for yesterday.
The other story I wanted to get to with you, Iowa wise, and then I do want to talk about Dabo, and I'm going to keep
It's Christmas. We have to.
Jokes aside. Just real quick, the Caden Proctor thing. I know that you wanted to address this. It's very complex. We could do an hour podcast on this topic alone. Where are you at?
Right. I understand why fans are disappointed. I probably, if we have a disappointment meter from 100 to 1, with 1 being not disappointed at all and 100 being like devastated, I'm probably at about a 5. That's just because I don't get into recruiting as much as I used to. And there's no denying that Caden Proctor is an elite talent, maybe the number 1 offensive lineman in the country. And how he did it, when he did it, that's the big rub for people. And that's my only you maybe could have handled that a little better. But I just try to look at these things through the prism of real life and my life and things I've done. I mean, I've left one job for another. And in one instance, it didn't, the old employer that I was leaving, that was not happy. They were not happy at all. My coworkers They were not happy. And sometimes that happens. You have to make decisions that are the best for you without, breaking any laws. Caden Proctor broke no laws. He didn't hurt anyone per se. This is the one, he'll never have another opportunity like this in his life. Now, he could go to the NFL and make more money. I'm just saying, though, this is his life to this point. There's no guarantees that he's going to get through college healthy enough to play in the NFL, because there's no guarantees for anybody that plays football that you'll do that. He has the talent, he has the pedigree, and the trajectory of his career absolutely looks like that of an NFL football player. But there are no guarantees. And the era that we are in right now with college athletics, like it or not, offers him the opportunity to make money. And, some of the things he said, that he felt like he was just settling for Iowa when he committed earlier. Okay, I could see that too. And again, I understand why Iowa fans are irritated or upset. But he did the best thing for him. And if I was in his sphere of influence, or if he was a family member of mine, I absolutely would not have advised him to commit early. I would say, play this out, see what the best offer is going to be. And if you get, 7-figure offers from other colleges, and those colleges also have a history of developing players and teaching them to get to the NFL, and oh, by the way, you can compete for a national championship every single season while getting excellent coaching, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because some of the Iowa fans want to say, well, he'd just get better coaching at Iowa. He'd have a better NFL career at Iowa. Alabama has put more NFL draft picks at offensive line the last 5 years at a minimum than Iowa, maybe more than anyone.
I wonder too, and Iowa's offensive line hasn't been good for a while.
It's
even
doubt.
with Lindenberg, like they still Linderbaum, yeah, sorry, they still struggled. Like it wasn't he was the glue, but it wasn't like this was one of these great Iowa offensive lines that we've become. Iowa, I think that narrative's a little bit old. Like really, since Doyle's been gone, they have not been that great there. So
he certainly was involved with the offensive line more than any other position group. Okay, I'm not saying that there's causality, but that's just a fact. I think if you look at the Ferentz era, 23, 24 years, there's probably been 5 years where I would say they had a great offensive line. So that narrative's maybe a little bit. I think the narrative. I think the excellence, the consistent excellence narrative is wrong.
But you usually have a guy, right? So which keeps you in the conversation is for that.
But again, I think the excellence narrative is wrong. But I think that the developmental narrative of turning 2-star tight ends into NFL players is not wrong. Iowa develops offensive linemen and takes them from 2-3-star to NFL contracts, maybe as good as anyone in the country, them in Wisconsin. That's the narrative. That's the true narrative. But the consistently excellent offensive line narrative is just not true.
Yeah,
it's not true.
That's good stuff. Yeah, it reminded me a little bit, you to draw back on your own experiences, a little bit of Harrison Barnes. Because in that deal, like you were all they felt the same way. Harrison used to he was Doug McDermott's high school teammate, one of his best friends. Doug's dad's the head coach. Harrison goes and shoots in the practice facility all the time. Like there's, there were a lot of hurt feelings with that one because Harrison and his camp really, according to the Iowa State, it felt like they were led on.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, he went to North Carolina to play for Roy Williams, and can you really blame him? And this deal's just really complex, John, because you throw the NIL thing into it. So I think a lot of fans are like, well, he just got paid more. And while that might be true, these types of decisions have been being made for a really long time.
They have. And yes, that money thing might be true. I don't think these things have to be revealed, although these are, well, no, the terms of the deals don't have to be made public because they're not through the university. Therefore, public, FOIA stuff isn't going to work. And Caden's a private citizen. But one of the things that he mentioned in the I don't know what the kids call like when these animated things when they commit, edits. They call them edits. And then there was some quotes from a 247 writer from Caden Proctor. And one thing really stuck out to me. He's like, I can come here and compete for national championships every year, win, and have fun. And I will never know the answer to this. Maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion, but fun would be one of the last terms I would use to describe Iowa's offense this year.
Yeah.
And he watched it all. It was the opposite of fun. It was painful. It was one of the most brutal offenses in contemporary college football history from a Power 5 school. He watched that too. He's no dummy. And yeah, he can come get some really good teaching and coaching and likely go to the NFL and make a lot of money if he would have come to Iowa and stayed healthy. There's no doubt about that. But he wouldn't have been competing for national championships. And there's no guarantee that he would have fun after seeing what we saw last year.
And this again reminds me of the Barnes deal, because it's like, I think in a perfect world, if Greg McDermott's on this upwards trajectory and they're going to NCAA tournaments, I think Harrison would have ended up at Iowa State despite it all. But they weren't. In fact, the conversation around Ames is, when is this guy going to get fired? Mm-hmm. And Caden's sitting here, watching Iowa the last 2 years. I know they were good as a team last year, but the offensive talk started, right? I always said that's the oddest season in my career. Last year was that Iowa year where what'd you win? 10 games last year? 10 games, and the fans are irate, calling into me and Ross daily. And I'm just like it was just, for an Iowa State guy, like, y'all just won 10 games and you're pissed. And
right.
My point is, the negativity with that offense has been around for a while now.
For sure.
And he's not oblivious to that.
No, he lives in the Des Moines metro, so he can listen to talk radio. He's on social media.
Oh, you're blaming me?
No, I'm not blaming you or anyone. He just listens to it. He's on social media. He's certainly aware that after many of these games, a number of squawkers on social media are calling for Kirk Ferentz's job and firing him and nepotism and all this and all that.
It matters.
It's just one more hit, more weakness in the strength. And oh, by the way, I can go wherever I want. I can go play for arguably the greatest college football coach of all time in Nick Saban at Alabama, who puts a ton of people into the league and probably had a better NIL package than what Iowa had. And that's not dogging Iowa's. And I think Iowa's got a pretty decent NIL organization going, frankly.
But that adds to this, John. This is my last point on this, is where, like, Jordan and Jordan Bohannon and Jared Stansbury did a really good podcast. I thought about this 2 days ago. I was with Jared yesterday. I was like, I would love to sit in with you guys, do the same show. And I agree with about 80% of what you say, but there's a 20% chance thing that I think you guys might be missing on, just because of life experience and whatnot. And I'd love to just bounce it off of them, because they think about it differently. They're younger than us. Jordan was there a year ago. Like, it's real. It's why we designed the network the way that we did.
I'm the oldest one, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody has to be. One day you wake up and you're the old guy.
Well, I thought I was like the puppy, and now I'm like,
I'm
middle. Older.
You're the mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the fan contention, though, is just real frustration because of everything that we've talked about with this, the way that this thing is set up. Like, fans to some capacity are getting blamed when these guys leave because, well, are you giving to the collective? How much money are you giving to the collective? Well, no, I'm already giving to the athletic department. I pay for parking and season tickets, and like I pay for $10 when I want to get a Diet Coke at a game. Oh, and a beer is $15 or whatever it is, right? Like, I do think the fans are just more amped up because of all this NIL stuff. Because it's not the NIL that bothers people. I truly don't believe that. There's a small majority of people who don't think that these guys, you get a scholarship, right? There is a small minority of people that think that that's enough. But now, like, there's like blame and like responsibility on the fans to acquire this talent with their pocketbook when they're the reason. The fans are the reason any of this exists. Even the television money. The television money isn't there if the fans aren't rabid enough to watch the games constantly. It all starts with the fans, and now they're being blamed for crap like this. So they are a little bit heated. I get it.
Yeah, I don't, and you may be right. I do find it interesting that the fans are being asked to give more to help the football program, stay on a level competitive playing field. And I think I think it's pretty rich considering all the money that's being thrown around. And really, at the end of the day, Fran McCaffrey said this a couple of weeks ago, and he's right. It's not a new idea that having the NIL and open season on the transfer portal with no transfer restrictions at the same time, it's free agency. You knew it was going to be bad. You knew it was going to be this. The NCAA is not even trying to enforce it. I don't know how they can. There needs the NFL, Major League Baseball, every professional sport has rules and regulations that govern tampering, periods when you are not allowed to reach out and talk to players from other teams. Otherwise, there's penalty. I mean, even though we all know that still happens, but there's the level of quote unquote tampering that's taking place in in middle of November, I had several people tell me that Cade McNamara to Iowa was a done deal. Well, how can you possibly, how can you know that? That's tampering.
Yeah, spare me. And Iowa State fans, you're in the same boat. Look at all these Atlantic 10 players coming over to the basketball team. Like spare me, Iowa fans talking about tampering. Everybody knew Cade McNamara to Iowa, and he committed. Come on,
yeah, it's tampering.
Everybody is doing that, and is it right? I don't know, but there's no rules against it really. So yeah, that was another thing that was a hot button issue, but I'm glad you brought it up because if I did it, I just would be the Hawkeye hater.
It's just just be honest, be intellectually honest. We just live in an era and an age of anti-intellectualism that's just striking.
Oh my God, we got to do the sideshow about anti-intellectualism. Have you ever really taken a deep dive on that?
I mean, I live in America every day, so.
Yeah, but I actually, because I have some relatives that live by that, and I wanted to learn more about them so I could understand them more so I don't get so angry.
And, that actually would make me angrier.
Yeah, don't look too much into it.
I mean, I'd probably need to learn the difference between cognitive dissonance and anti-intellectualism. Yeah.
Oh man, rural Iowa there's a lot of the anti-intellectualism, and I get it because I've lived there, and everybody feels like they're forgotten about and left behind. It pisses them off, so then they just want to be a thorn in your side. That's kind of how but anyways, Dabo.
Speaking of anti-intellectualism,
Dabo, and I'm proud to say, look at me just patting myself on the back here for a couple times today. Ross Peterson and I have been all over this guy for almost 10 years now, calling out his hypocrisy. The greatest was when Dabo Swinney, the head coach of Clemson, the illustrious head coach of Clemson, once said that he would quit and he would get out of coaching if NIL ever became a thing in college football.
Right.
Well, it's harder to do when you're making $10 million a year, isn't it? And Ross would always say, "Hey, Grandview could use some help. You want to go teach kids? Hey, Des Moines North, you think they wouldn't like to have Dabo Swinney come and make a difference on the lives of those young men?" So Dabo, it's wide open for you. Dabo, at his press conference yesterday, a direct quote, he's not happy about these young men making money is how we built this program on NIL, says Dabo. We really did. And it's probably different than what you're thinking, though. We built this program in God's name, image, and likeness. Jon Miller, the floor is yours.
So
old Clemson.
I don't have any problem with any human being worshiping whoever they want, or whatever they want at all. I don't. I really don't. I am still, reevaluating my faith. Dabo is absolutely an evangelical Christian.
And he's been very consistent about that.
Yep, for sure. And I think that, my exposure, my knowledge, my understanding, my reading of the ministry or life of Jesus, I've not encountered too many other figures from history that I think is more worth me trying to pattern how I live after than Jesus. Clearly, I haven't read about everyone, and there are other people that have lived great lives. I don't necessarily at this particular time of my life view Jesus the way that some people do, or I'm not sure. Okay, but I think great example. Here's my concern. Is that we have something called the Constitution. A lot of irony and cognitive dissonance in what I'm about to say. We have the Constitution. There are a number of people who claim themselves as patriots, and the Constitution is more than just a document. It is almost a religious document in some ways, and it needs to be defended and it needs to be upheld, except when that goes against what you believe or what you think's right for everyone. The very first amendment of the United States Constitution reads as such: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. So let's just stop. My concern here is the establishment clause, which is the first half of the First Amendment. I'll just read that part again. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That is both a freedom of religion to worship who you want to worship, and it's also an implied freedom from religion, meaning that a government or public organization or institution cannot tell you, a citizen of the United States, who and how you worship. All right. I think my concern here isn't that, Dabo probably has a really positive effect and impact on a number of people. I don't doubt that.
I agree. And there's a lot of parents that would be like, yeah, I want my kid to go play for him.
Oh, there's no doubt. That's his angle. That's his angle.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Baptized a couple of football players in practice a few years ago. All right. This wasn't I shouldn't use other religions with baptism. This was a entirely and solely Christian endeavor. And that Dabo isn't offering, he isn't bringing out mats and having the multiple times daily call to worship that Muslims use in their practice of worship. He's not setting aside, a space for Buddhists or Hindus. All right. All those religions I just mentioned, absolutely, relative. I think almost 70% of the world is not Christian. So, if not more than that. So Dabo, this is a public institution. Clemson is a publicly funded public institution. The Establishment Clause was set forth as a separation of the government basically telling you who and what you can worship. One of the things that the early Puritans wanted to get away from is they actually wanted to go somewhere where, they weren't persecuted for their more conservative beliefs than I guess let's just say the Catholic Church of England. All right. It was a top down. This is what you have. Not surprising. Go back to around 325 AD. To the Roman Emperor Constantine at that point in time. He converted to Christianity. It's called the Constantinian shift is what historians call this. And when he converted to Christianity, that basically was the start of several hundreds of years throughout the medieval period where you were given a choice in some countries and under some leaderships or some fiefdoms. You convert to Christianity because that's what the leader of the country says you're going to do, or we will kill you, or we will excommunicate you from the village or small society that you lived in, which in those times was the same as a death sentence. All right. So the Establishment Clause, the Constitution, the First Amendment was to protect people give people choice in a true democratic form of worshiping who they want and what they want. And this, to me, the concern I have as an American that actually does respect the Constitution, even when it goes the way I don't like, this is a violation, I think, a potential violation of the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause. And there have been organizations that have brought this up as well. Dabo Sweeney uses his Christianity absolutely as a recruiting tool. Doesn't mean I don't think that he's genuine in his beliefs, but it's absolutely a genuine recruiting tool. And that's legal. There's nothing wrong with that. And he does really well with that. But when you're baptizing players to your Christian God on university facilities within the public institution, that's not right. And you shouldn't do that. And that's my only concern with it. Dabo can go be Dabo, but we just when we do things like this, when we exclude people, when we do things like this, we can make people feel uncomfortable, because there's some kids that are going to Clemson because they want to go compete for national championships. And Dabo is a very energetic, charismatic guy. Mm-hmm. I'd probably like him if I sat down and talked with him. This isn't an assassination on Dabo's character.
No, I just think he's a hypocrite. I don't think he's a bad character. I just think he's a hypocrite. You can't say a lot of the stuff. His actions don't back it.
Right. Well, that just makes him, human for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, he's very, he's been one of the biggest fighters.
Yeah.
I don't have time
concern
to get into all this today, because
right.
I got to get to another one. But like, the guy, his actions do not match his words.
Right.
And he's been so bullish about it for so long.
Right. It's cringy for sure. But my major beef isn't that. My major beef is I don't believe that accommodations that are made for Christian players would be made for Muslim players or Hindu players or Buddhist players. And this is a public institution, and the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution, I think, is being run afoul with in this instance.
I think, you went way deeper than I did. I just think the guy's a hypocrite.
Well, that's why it's Miller and Williams, right? Or Williams and Miller.
Oh man, good stuff. So you're just staying at home?
I am. I'm actually gonna go down in my basement that's warmer than my second level. I'm gonna bring a book down that I just got from Amazon that I'm a chapter in that is basically about
Constantine.
Yes, it's about forced. It's about how. It's almost like an Occam's razor question.
Oh.
What's more likely, that Christianity and Islam, by the way, spread so far, so wide, and relatively so fast because one of them is the truth, or that forced conversions basically aided and abetted it? And it's a book. It's basically a history book on conversion to religions and how that process happened. It's fascinating. 2023, starting now in 2022, I'm not reading any fiction. It's all nonfiction for me, and it's a lot of books like this. Hold
on one second. Stand right there.
Yeah. I'm not going to stand. I'm just going to sit here. Chris is walking away right now. Those of you listening to this, I figured I'd fill some time.
Here's the one that I was going to read over the break.
Okay, let's see it.
Humans, a brief history of how we fucked it all up.
Okay. Yeah. I might get there eventually. Yeah.
Been looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's great. My wife got me a book for Christmas that she let me open yesterday because she thought I might want to read that too in the cold. I'm like, I've got like 6 books queued up. I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but it's basically about how a rabbi from Jerusalem became, how that transformation happened. So yeah, fun times. That's what the Millers do for fun. I'm glad to see that's similar to what you do too.
I don't read fiction. I don't remember the last novel I've read.
I like it because I like to escape the reality, but
my wife says the same thing, but I feel very like I'm wasting my time by doing that.
I can sense that, because I feel like I've got more to do and say, not in any big way. I just, self-improvement, learning. And you know what? I may, after I go through this deconstruction of faith journey and as I reconstruct it, I may wind up back in a very familiar place. I'm not discounting that, but I'm at a point where I am, and we're going to, someday we're going to have a podcast about this, but, on our non-sports podcast. But I think that it's been, I want to arrive at my beliefs without my mind being incepted, without being indoctrinated from before I can speak. And before I can speak and know the human language, having someone sing to me, Jesus loves me, this I know, and all these things planted in my head. And there's zero doubt that I grew up believing what I did because of that. I want to, have a journey and a search for, is there an other? Is there more? Which I absolutely believe. I'm not an atheist. I don't think I could ever get to that point in time. I just want to arrive at these answers on my own. And with my own, do your own research. That ought to resonate with a lot of people. I'm doing my own research right now. So it's fascinating, frankly. And all these things that have been truths in the world, historical truths, I've just basically, at a period of my life, was an anti-intellectual. And I cognizantly and intentionally chose not to open boxes in my head that had always been scratching in the back of my mind. Well, 2016 happened. A lot of things changed in America. A lot of people started behaving as hypocrites, which I said, I'm going to open these boxes now. So if you wonder what happened to Miller,
he's opening up boxes.
People did. Some of you did.
He's opening up boxes while I'm over here reading about the construction of the English Premier League as a media entity.
Whatever floats your boat. Listen,
I'm trying to get inside the mind of the enemy, Mike Slive.
Yeah, when I was a child, I did childish things, and I became a man and put those things away.
Wait, Greg Sankey, he's the new guy. Sorry, I'm getting my SEC commissioners mixed up.
He makes a really, really good non-caffeinated coffee, Greg Sankey.
How do you know this?
Sanka. Probably a brand of coffee before your time in 70s commercials.
Whenever you ever had Maxwell House?
Let me edit that out. Have I read what?
Maxwell House?
I'm sure at some point in time. I don't like coffee.
That's the elite.
I don't drink coffee.
Real quick, Jerry chimes in, says, John, isn't Ken Miller the oldest?
Thank you, Jerry.
Boom.
Thank you, Jerry. Nailed it. Yep.
Thanks to Prairie Meadows for sponsoring us. We will be taking next week off for this show in particular, but I'll be around with two guys named Chris and Bull Stuff, but we're going to kick John out for a week. He's just going to be reading nonfiction. So
yeah, I'm reading. I'm taking a educational sabbatical.
Perfect. He's Jon Miller. I'm Chris Williams. Enjoy the Blizzard.